December 18, 2002, 0600 hours, Bagram Air Base, Afghanistan. A man walks into a medical tent. No cameras, no entourage, no press credentials pinned to his chest. Just Robin Williams, alone, carrying a duffel bag filled with props and wigs and voices. The commanding officer moved to intercept. "Sir, this area is restricted. The USO show isn't until 1400 hours, main auditorium." Robin looked past him, at the rows of hospital beds, at the bandages, at the faces of 20-year-old kids who looked 80 years old. "I'm not here for a show," Robin said quietly. "I'm here for them." Inside that tent, 47 wounded soldiers, IED victims, sniper casualties, men who'd lost limbs, lost eyes, lost pieces of themselves they'd never get back. The nurses had seen everything, watched young men realize their lives were forever changed, watched some give up, watched others fight. But they'd never seen what happened next. What Robin Williams did in that medical tent over the next 18 hours wasn't entertainment. It was medicine. Bed by bed, soldier by soldier, no cameras, no time limit. Just Robin, refusing to leave until every single wounded warrior had laughed at least once. When the sun set 18 hours later, 3 generals stood outside that tent, crying, not because of what they'd seen on the battlefield, because of what they'd seen Robin Williams do. To understand what Robin Williams did that day, you need to understand where he was and when. December 2002. The war in Afghanistan was 1 year old. America had responded to September 11th by invading, toppling the Taliban, hunting Al-Qaeda through mountain caves. But wars don't end when governments fall. They metastasize into insurgencies, roadside bombs, ambushes in mountain passes where the enemy knows every rock, every shadow. By December 2002, the casualties were mounting. Not the numbers that would come later when Iraq exploded into chaos, but enough. Enough young men coming home in flak-draped boxes. Enough young men coming home alive, but changed. Bagram Air Base was one of the main coalition hubs, runways, barracks, command centers, supply depots. And it had a medical facility. Not a hospital in the traditional sense, more like a collection of tents with equipment, staffed by military doctors and nurses who worked 18-hour shifts treating injuries that would have been fatal in any previous war. Modern body armor saved lives. Soldiers survived explosions that would have killed them in Vietnam, in Korea, in World War II. But surviving didn't mean whole. It meant living without legs, without arms, without faces that looked like they used to. The medical tent at Bagram held the soldiers who were stable enough to be conscious, but not stable enough to be transported to Germany or back to the States. They'd be there for days, sometimes weeks, in that limbo between battlefield and home. 50 beds. On December 18th, 47 were occupied. The youngest soldier was 19 years old. The oldest was 38. Most were in their early 20s. Kids, really. Kids who'd volunteered after September 11th because they wanted to serve. Kids who were now learning what service actually cost. The medical staff did everything they could: morphine for pain, surgery when needed, physical therapy, psychiatric support. But there's only so much medicine can do for the kind of wounds these men carried. The physical wounds would heal, or they wouldn't. Either way, the soldiers would learn to live with them. The invisible wounds were harder. The guilt of surviving when friends didn't, the shame of being injured, the fear of what came next. How do you go home to your family when you're not the person who left? How do you explain to your girlfriend that the body she knew doesn't exist anymore? How do you tell your parents you're never going to walk again? The setup. Robin Williams was in the region as part of a USO tour. USO tours were a tradition going back to World War II, entertainers volunteering to visit troops overseas, bringing a piece of home, a reminder that people back in the States cared. Robin had done several USO tours over the years. He loved performing for military audiences. They were the best crowds, laughed at everything, appreciated the effort. The official schedule for December 18th was simple. Fly into Bagram at 0500 hours, rest for a few hours, perform a 90-minute comedy show at 1400 hours for 2,000 troops in the main auditorium, photos with command staff, dinner with officers, fly out the next morning. Standard protocol, safe, controlled, good for morale and publicity. But when Robin's helicopter landed at Bagram that morning, something changed. Maybe it was the landscape, the mountains surrounding the base, the reminder of how far these soldiers were from home. Maybe it was the faces of the young troops who met his helicopter, exhausted from night patrols, trying to smile through their fatigue. Or maybe Robin just knew, the way performers sometimes know, that the official schedule wasn't where he needed to be. Robin asked his escort officer one question: "Where are the wounded?" The officer explained about the medical facility, a restricted area, not part of the tour. The soldiers there were in bad shape. Some were heavily medicated. Some were dealing with severe trauma. It wouldn't be appropriate for a comedy visit.
Robin listened. Ben said, "Take me there." The officer tried to explain the protocol, the schedule, the show that afternoon. Robin was already walking. He'd asked for directions, and he was heading that way, with or without an escort. The officer followed, radioing ahead, warning the medical staff that Robin Williams was incoming and they couldn't stop him. The dramatic reveal. When Robin reached the medical tent, a captain tried to intercept him. Standard security procedure. This was a restricted area, only authorized medical personnel and immediate family. Robin showed his USO credentials, explained he just wanted to visit the troops. The captain hesitated. This wasn't protocol. These men were patients, not an audience. But something about Robin's face, the quiet determination, made the captain step aside. "Sir, many of these soldiers are on heavy medication. Some have severe injuries. It might be difficult." "I understand," Robin said. "I'll be careful." He walked in. The medical tent was 100 feet long, white canvas walls, rows of beds on either side, fluorescent lights humming, medical equipment beeping, the smell of antiseptic trying to cover the smell of wounds. At 0600 hours, most of the soldiers were asleep, or in that morphine haze between consciousness and dreams. Robin stood at the entrance for a moment, taking it in. This wasn't a stage, wasn't an audience. These were kids who'd given everything. He walked to the first bed, a 21-year-old private from Ohio, both legs amputated below the knee, still bandaged, fresh. The private was awake, staring at the ceiling. Robin pulled up a chair, sat down. "Hey, I'm Robin." The private turned his head slowly. Recognition flickered. "Robin Williams?" "Yeah. What's your name?" "Torres. Private Torres." "Nice to meet you, Torres." Robin paused. "You're from Ohio." The private was confused, still processing that Robin Williams was sitting next to his bed in a medical tent in Afghanistan. "How did you know I'm from Ohio?" "Lucky guess. I'm psychic. Also, your mom sent me a message." Robin's voice became Torres's mother, thick Ohio accent, telling Robin to check on his boy, make sure he was eating enough, asking him why he never writes. Torres smiled. Just a small smile, but it was there. Robin stayed with Torres for 20 minutes, did characters, did voices, asked about home, about family, about what Torres missed most. Not about the injury, not about the war, just about life. When Robin finally stood to move to the next bed, Torres said, "Thank you. That's the first time I've smiled since the explosion." When was the explosion? 5 days ago. Robin put his hand on Torres's shoulder. "You're going to be okay. You're still you. The legs don't change that." Torres nodded, not quite believing it yet, but wanting to. The pattern emerges. Robin moved to the next bed. A 19-year-old from Texas, shrapnel wounds across his torso, third-degree burns on his arms. The kid was awake but quiet, staring at nothing. Robin sat down, did the same thing, introduced himself, asked questions, made voices, found what made the kid smile. It took longer this time. The kid was dealing with pain, with shock, with the weight of what had happened. But Robin waited, stayed patient, and eventually the kid laughed. Not a big laugh, a small sound, surprised, like he'd forgotten laughter was possible. Robin stayed with that soldier for 30 minutes, then moved to the next bed. By 0800 hours, Robin had been in the tent for 2 hours. He'd visited 8 soldiers. The medical staff was watching in amazement. This wasn't a publicity visit. This wasn't a photo op. Robin was genuinely connecting with these men, one at a time, giving each soldier his full attention. No rushing, no performance, just presence. At 0900 hours, a colonel came to remind Robin about the schedule. He needed to rest before the afternoon show. Robin was sitting with a sergeant who'd lost his right arm and most of his vision in his left eye. Robin was doing an impression of his drill instructor, making him laugh so hard that the nurse had to check his vitals. Robin looked up at the colonel. "I'll be there for the show, but I'm not leaving yet." "Sir, you've been here 3 hours. You must be exhausted." Robin glanced at the beds around him. "They've been here longer." The colonel understood. He left.
Robin stayed. The breaking point. By noon, Robin had visited 23 soldiers. His voice was getting hoarse. He'd been doing characters and voices for 6 hours straight. The medical staff kept offering him water, food, a place to rest. He'd drink water, but refused to leave. There was a 24-year-old in the back corner, traumatic brain injury, mostly unresponsive. The doctors said he could hear, but couldn't communicate well. Robin sat with him for an hour, did quiet voices, told stories. The soldier's mother was there, sitting vigil. She hadn't left his side in 4 days. Robin did voices for her too, made her laugh through her tears. When Robin finally stood to leave, she grabbed his hand. "Thank you. This is the most normal I've felt since the phone call. You made me remember he's still in there." Robin had tears in his eyes. "He is. He's absolutely still in there." The official show was scheduled for 1400 hours. At 1330, Robin was still in the medical tent. He'd visited 35 soldiers. He was exhausted, visibly exhausted. His face was drawn, his voice was almost gone, but he had 12 beds left. The USO coordinator was panicking. 2,000 troops were gathering in the auditorium. The show was supposed to start in 30 minutes. Robin couldn't do both. He needed to choose. Robin looked at the remaining beds, at the soldiers still waiting, at the faces watching him, hoping he'd come to them next. He turned to the coordinator. "Push the show to 1600. Tell them I'm running late. I'll be there, but I'm finishing this first." The coordinator tried to argue. "You can't push a show for 2,000 troops. The schedule, the logistics." Robin wasn't listening. He was already walking to the next bed. The witnesses. Brigadier General Marcus Webb heard about the delay. He was annoyed. This was a violation of protocol. He walked to the medical tent to find out what was happening. When he arrived, he saw Robin Williams sitting with a 20-year-old who'd lost both legs and his left arm. Robin was doing character voices, making the kid laugh, while his father sat beside the bed, crying, not from sadness, from relief, because his son was laughing. General Webb stood at the entrance and watched. He watched Robin move from bed to bed, watched him give every soldier time, watched him refuse breaks, watched exhaustion take over, but determination keep him going. The general had commanded men in combat. He knew what sacrifice looked like, and he was watching it now. At 15:45 hours, Robin Williams visited the 47th and final soldier, a 22-year-old from California, severe burns, facing months of reconstructive surgery. Robin sat down, did his routine, made the soldier laugh, stayed 30 minutes. When he stood up to leave, his legs almost gave out. The nurse caught him. "Mr. Williams, you need to rest. You've been here almost 10 hours. "I know, I just need water, then I'll do the show." "Sir, maybe cancel the show. You've done enough." Robin shook his head. "Those 2,000 troops have been waiting. I'm not canceling on them." The performance. At 1600 hours, Robin Williams walked into the main auditorium. 2,000 troops erupted in applause. They'd been waiting 2 hours, but nobody complained. Word had spread about where Robin had been, what he'd been doing. Robin took the stage, voice ragged, exhausted, but he performed for 90 minutes, full energy, full commitment, did impressions, did characters, made 2,000 soldiers laugh until they couldn't breathe. When the show ended, Robin walked off stage and collapsed. The medical staff rushed him to a tent. Dehydration, exhaustion. He'd been going for 18 hours straight. They gave him IV fluids, made him rest. By 2000 hours, he was stable, ready to fly out the next morning as scheduled. The reckoning. General Webb went to check on Robin before he left. Found him sitting up, drinking water, looking like he'd been through combat himself. "Mr. Williams, what you did today, that wasn't just entertainment. You gave those men something they needed more than medicine." "I just sat with them, that's all." "No," the general's voice was firm. "You saw them. You treated them like they were still whole, like they still mattered. Some of those men haven't smiled in weeks. You reminded them they're still human." The general's voice cracked. "I've been in command for 20 years. I've seen heroism. I've seen sacrifice. But what you did today, that's leadership. That's what it looks like to serve."
The general was crying now, not hiding it, just letting it happen. "Thank you. On behalf of every soldier in this facility, every soldier on this base, thank you." Robin didn't know what to say, so he just nodded. The silence. The official USO report listed Robin Williams' visit to Bagram Air Base as a successful morale event. 90-minute show, 2,000 troops entertained. Standard documentation. It didn't mention the 18 hours before the show. It didn't mention the 47 soldiers. It didn't mention the general crying. The medical staff wanted to tell the story, wanted the world to know what Robin had done. Robin asked them not to. Those men deserve privacy. What happened in that tent stays in that tent. So for 12 years, nobody knew. Robin never mentioned it in interviews, never used it for publicity. The story stayed in Afghanistan, shared quietly among military personnel, passed down through units. The full circle moment. When Robin Williams died in August 2014, thousands of veterans posted their memories online. Stories of USO shows, of meet and greets, of brief moments with Robin. And then a retired general posted something different. He wrote about December 18, 2002, about the medical tent, about 18 hours, about 47 soldiers, about Robin refusing to leave until every single one had laughed. The post went viral. Other soldiers who'd been there confirmed it, added details, told their pieces of the story. A veteran named Torres, now 33 years old, both legs prosthetic, wrote, "Robin Williams sat with me the day I lost my legs. He made me laugh when I thought I'd never laugh again. He saved my life that day, not literally, but actually. I was ready to give up, and he reminded me I was still me. I'll never forget that." The medical staff shared their memories. The captain who'd tried to stop Robin from entering the tent, the nurses who'd watched him refuse breaks, the doctors who'd been amazed at what laughter did for their patients. And General Webb, now retired, spoke at a memorial service. He told the complete story, the 18 hours, the refusal to leave, the exhaustion, the dedication. Robin Williams understood something most people don't. Service isn't about glory. It's about showing up when nobody's watching, doing the hard thing because it's the right thing. He served those soldiers more completely in 18 hours than most people serve in a lifetime. The life lesson. Robin Williams made 2,000 troops laugh that day at Bagram. That's what made the official report. But he saved 47 soldiers that day, reminded them they were still human, still worthy, still here. That's what made him a hero. Because here's what Robin Williams understood that December morning in Afghanistan. Entertainment is important. Laughter matters. A 90-minute show for 2,000 troops is valuable. But sometimes the real work happens in the quiet moments, in the spaces between the spotlights, when nobody's watching, when nobody's recording, when there's no audience to applaud. Sometimes the most important performance is the one nobody sees. Robin Williams had every reason to stick to the schedule, to do the official show, to rest beforehand, to save his energy for the crowd that was expecting him. But he chose differently. He chose to sit with 47 broken soldiers, one at a time, for as long as each one needed. He gave his voice, his energy, his entire self to men who had nothing left to give. And in doing so, he gave them something medicine couldn't. He gave them proof that they still mattered, that losing a leg, an arm, a face didn't make them less human, that they were still worthy of time, of attention, of laughter. That's not entertainment. That's love. And when Robin Williams walked out of that tent 18 hours later, barely able to stand, voice gone, body exhausted, he'd done more than make people laugh. He'd reminded 47 soldiers why they were fighting to stay alive. The generals cried that day because they recognized something they rarely saw: pure service. No cameras, no credit, no recognition, just a man doing what needed to be done because it needed to be done. That's the legacy Robin Williams left in that medical tent. Not the jokes, not the characters, not the impressions. The choice. The choice to see wounded soldiers not as an audience, but as individuals, not as patients, but as people. Not as casualties, but as human beings who deserved every minute he could give them. And 47 soldiers carried that choice home with them, carried it through surgeries, through physical therapy, through nightmares and grief and the long road back to normal. Because Robin Williams sat beside their beds and made them laugh when they thought they'd never laugh again, and reminded them of something they desperately needed to remember. They were still themselves. The wounds didn't change that. Nothing could change that.